Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Thank you so much for joining us for another hour of insightful and deeply meaningful conversation. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of understanding what we had intentionally designed our future to be, and then partway through realizing, you know what, that may not be my path. I am destined for something different. My gift to the universe is something very different. And how do I courageously embark on that revised journey? How do I course correct? And how do I, in the process, continue to be true to who I am and live my purpose? So as we think about the lessons Goldilocks is teaching us, how are we going to show up just right to follow that purpose, that passion? And how do we navigate life as life evolves? To have this wonderful communication and conversation with me today is Dr. Swathi. Swathi, welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here.
This is going to be such a fun conversation. So you, as a young woman growing up, had desires and intentions to get into the field of medicine. And talk to us about what that journey was like as a young woman, with your dreams, with your aspirations, and then we'll go into the other elements.
Absolutely. So, to me, I saw doctors growing up, and that was something that, I look up to. And it was something that, honestly, was like actually mostly men that I saw that were doctors. So I thought, I want to be one of these people. I want to go off and I want to do this. And to me, it was such a beacon of success. And so that was initially how I started off, was I want to go into healthcare. I want to be a doctor. And I also want to make my family proud. Of course, that's part of it too. And it all started from there. And then I'm happy to walk through the next steps that transpired after.
Absolutely. And, culturally, you're supposed to be a doctor, an engineer, a professor. So those pressures are there. And I'm so glad you mentioned that as a young woman, you also wanted to make your family proud.
Yeah.
At what stage did you start realizing those were really not your dreams? And what did you do to then transform yourself to live your own purpose, to pursue your own destiny?
Yeah, so one of the pieces of advice I have for everyone is never be afraid to try anything. So what I did was I started shadowing, I started exploring, what it would mean to be, a healthcare professional, healthcare provider, a doctor. And I found through these experiences that maybe that wasn't the right fit for me. But what I did still love was healthcare. And I loved the space of being able to change people's lives for the better and use knowledge to do that. And I know you can do that in a lot of different career paths, but that just really spoke to me in a different way. And so I decided to pursue pharmacy, and I felt very confident in that decision. However, growing up, the only pharmacists that I saw were actual pharmacy business owners. So to me, pharmacy was like, wow, you forge your own path, you create your own business, you run a business, you run a team. That seemed exciting to me, while still keeping in mind that you are helping to better people's lives. So I saw that side. And then the other side I saw was kind of the pharmaceutical industry side, where, these were high-powered business professionals who were also creating change, but from a macro scale, not necessarily, from a one-to-one patient interaction. And they were still having an impact, but they were also able to tap on a lot of other tools in their toolbox, like whether they were in marketing or, accounting or medical affairs or medical information. Like, to me, there was such a scope and possibility of what you could do as a pharmacist. So I embarked on pharmacy school thinking, I am going to do one of these, more unconventional but exciting paths, where I use pharmacy as a tool along with a bunch of other tools that I will cultivate along the way, and then figure out what I want to do later. In the background of all of this is that I grew up using Ayurvedic herbs in the household. but we use them just as often as we used over-the-counter and prescription options. My mom was a nurse and my dad was a supplement formulator. So it was very much around me, this combination of, where we come from, but then my parents were immigrants. So coming to the US and then adopting some of the, more Western ideologies of the way that we view healing, health, and medicine, and that intersection. And that's something that's always been in the background, something I've always come back to as healing, health, and wellness really is this multi-prong approach. It's not simply, we're only going to use the over-the-counter option. We're also going to think about, what we're eating. Ayurveda is very much about a lifestyle choice, and it's what we're eating, what sorts of herbs we're incorporating into our lives, thinking about sleep and self-massage and all these different beautiful aspects that when I was in pharmacy school, I felt like we're missing. And so in pharmacy school, I really, again, was trying everything. I didn't want to leave any stone unturned. Especially at that point, I actually didn't even know you could be a clinical pharmacist where you work on a collaborative interdisciplinary team in a hospital, or you work in this team in a clinic. And I didn't know that. So I was willing to try every path. And so I cultivated my schedule and my entire extracurricular list around, let me try everything. So while all my friends were, getting internships working in a pharmacy, I got internships working at med tech companies and working in clinical research and seeing if that was something that was of interest to me, volunteering in the community. And I actually ended up co-founding an educational program at a free clinic that was a bilingual program. And again, thinking about your tools in your toolbox is so important, because we might pick this one career path, let's say pharmacy for me. We might pick this one career path, and then the set options are, you work in a pharmacy, you work in a clinic, you work in a hospital. But let's think outside the box of what else we can bring along with this, quote unquote, more conventional skill set. And so, for me, even before pharmacy school, I was already thinking, if I'm going to be in healthcare, what else can I learn that can help me along the way? So I actually majored in Spanish because I thought, okay, if I'm going to be in healthcare, let's expand my reach just from English speaking to also Spanish speaking. And so that became a huge part of my identity in pharmacy school and moving forward, that, I could reach patients from a lot of different vantage points. And so it's always thinking about what are your strengths, what are your skills, and how can you infuse those through whichever career path you decide to pick.
Fascinating. So a few things come to my mind. I too grew up in the Ayurvedic tradition, and it's a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
What you eat is what you become. How you live is what your life is going to become. So meditation, yoga, healthy eating, neutralizing your meals so that toxins are removed. They're all not things we do, it's how we live. So I'm so glad to see that you had the courage to bring that into your profession and expand the scope and impact. It especially resonates for me because when my husband got cancer, we did the surgery because that's a way that we need to remove the cancer, but we chose not to do chemo or radiation. We moved to a tropical country close to the United States, and we went on farm to table Ayurvedic lifestyle and completely changed everything. And in less than 3 years, he's under remission, right? Mm-hmm. So there are ways to address this. And a lot of times pharmaceutical companies are profit making. And so I come from the world of finance. And in finance, we talk about how pharmaceutical companies create patents, and they create patent for one use of the drug. And they have 7 years of ability to charge extra money.
Yes.
Then they patent it for the second use and the third use to expand the life of the drug. It's never, let's give the remedy to society. How can I expand the profit-making timeline? Because I have so much sunk cost that never went to market.
Right.
Talk to us about that profit-making mentality of Western pharmaceutical and the life-affirming everyday lifestyle of Ayurvedic, and how are you able to combine the two and have them sit side by side?
Yes, no, I'm so glad you brought that up, and especially in that context of, really how the way the healthcare system or the sick care system is really functioning, especially in the United States. So to me, what really changed my entire perspective, I think partially was growing up, but then also partially was going through this very conventional path of learning about pharmacy and learning about the drug delivery systems and learning about the processes that they go through from phase 0 to phase 4 clinical trials and all of these things that really come together to be the pharmaceutical industry and how it impacts people every single day. But I think what we lose in that entire discussion, though, is the personalized aspect of healthcare. And at the end of the day, that's, to me, I identify as an integrative health pharmacist. And integrative health has a very interesting, reputation in certain circles. Integrative health for some people really means, that this is highly polarized, and that, integrative health is that we're anti-conventional medicine, we're anti-surgery, we are anti-pharmaceutical agents and everything in between. But what it is to me, and the way I define it at the end of the day, is patient-centered shared decision-making. And at the end of the day, that really means this individualized approach where we think of every patient differently. And this is so important in our evolving, landscape of what it means to be human and what it means to be in the world, because so many different patients I've interacted with over the years, that some of them, for example, would prefer to go only the natural route, no surgery, no pharmaceutical agents, even no supplements, and just figure out from a nutrition and even lifestyle perspective what they can do. Then we have people on the other side of the spectrum who, don't really believe that there is science or backing for using some of these natural or lifestyle modalities. So instead, they want to go the full, conventional route. But what I've found in my experience is most people are in the middle. And so to me, integrative health really is about this interplay of all these different modalities and how we can fit it to everyone's very specific individualized lifestyle and create this personalized approach, which I think is really what's missing right now in healthcare. Because there are some people on these, people say that they're in the integrative side. And I think that then some people say they're on the conventional side. And I think we need to meet somewhere in the middle to realize that the average patient is not really wanting just one or the other. They're realizing that, maybe their 2 or 3 medications that they're on are really serving them well. The side effects are not impacting them in a negative way, but they want to optimize other parts of their life. And they don't necessarily want to do that with another medication that might have a drug interaction or might have a really terrible side effect profile. So what is there a way that we can, how can we work with that patient to then improve and optimize their daily life through the incorporation of some of these, maybe supplements or lifestyle choices or Ayurvedic modalities? So it really comes down for me to how I view healing, health, and wellness, and through this integrative lens that is all about the patient. And as a healthcare professional, my goal is to, create this knowledge base of all these different, I use the word modality a lot, but really what modality means to me is all the different possibilities for healing, health, and wellness. So everything from nutrition to herbal therapy to therapeutic aromatherapy to homeopathy to really anything else you can think of that falls in the scope. Even pharmacogenomic testing is a great way to personalize therapy. So it's really thinking about what is going to fit best for this patient, but present all the options. You could take an Ambien. Yes, maybe that's what's going to suit you. However, we could talk about sleep hygiene or other supplementation, other ways we can incorporate healthy fats and things into our lifestyle that's going to be amazing for our sleep quality and quantity. There are so many different options. So I always like to view it as, I'm the expert to provide you all the options, and let's see what is going to be the best choice with your lifestyle. And at the end of the day, your overall treatment goals.
Absolutely brilliant. As I'm hearing you explain this, what comes up for me is having been through major medical situations the last 5 years in and out of hospitals. It's very clear that the traditional Western medicine, so to me, when I say traditional, I also classify it as Western, because there's traditional Eastern that far outdates the traditional Western, right? So the traditional Western medicine is so hyper specialized. The heart doctor cares about the heart, the kidney doctor cares about the kidney, the oncologist cares about the cancer. Nobody's looking at the whole person.
Right.
I remember calling all my husband's specialists into my husband's hospital room, taking over the whiteboard and actually creating a flow chart, and then asking them, which of you really care about the person? And it was only the internist intern who was in the hospital doing his rounds, right?
Wow.
And so how many patients, families can take charge and do this? How do we truly create an environment where people understand each doctor is only going to talk about their specialization? And I asked them, you're the right foot, big toe doctor, but do you care if the toe is connected to a foot and a foot is attached to a live person? Why are you treating a toe if the rest of it is non-existent?
Mm-hmm.
And that is the mentality we are having to overcome. And medicine is not just the intervention. What about the spirit? What about the person? And when the spirit goes for the journey, the body goes along for the healing, and the Western medicine forgets that because it becomes very transactional.
Right.
Talk to us about how integrative medicine allows us to treat the whole person, that the person has a heart, mind, body, and a spirit.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the way that I view it is that every person is a mind, body, soul, spirit. And so we have to be thinking about all the different aspects. And that's something I'm always thinking about when I work with patients, when I do consultations, is how am I speaking to each one of these parts of the person and how they're all intrinsically linked. And so I think integrative health and this personalized approach is not something that's going to be adapted tomorrow as a widespread thing, unfortunately, because it's not as profitable at the end of the day. And I think that a lot of these companies, as you mentioned before, have really profit at the forefront of their minds. And so I think we just need to, as a community, as a collective, we really need to think of how we can change it from a root cause perspective. Because not only is it a root cause perspective that we need to look at for the patient, it's also a root cause of the system that's also the issue. So I think that, what's really helped and changed things in the past is, whether it's, the healthcare provider community, the patient community, both of them together, that's really what's cultivated change in the past. Is we need this collective conscious and thought to then decide and make these strides to make the change. And so I think what I've seen thus far, at least from my perspective, is that the patients are the ones that are driving this change right now, because healthcare providers are very much set in, this is what I learned in school, this is what I learned in my training. Oh, we didn't really talk about supplements or, lifestyle modifications that extensively. I mean, I can say from my personal experience in pharmacy school, we run through, for example, let's say someone is diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. The first course of action is lifestyle modifications, but I can't tell you one thing of what a lifestyle modification is from what I learned from school. It's like, that was the first choice. Oh, okay, that didn't work. Then we hop to, 500 milligrams metformin, or the first step in this pharmaceutical journey. But in school, even they didn't even discuss what it would mean to have a lifestyle modification. And so this is really what sparked my interest in pursuing that and realizing that pharmacists are the most accessible healthcare professional. We should be the ones that should know a lot of this, and then we can help inform and educate other healthcare professionals on a collaborative team. So to me, it was pharmacists are the clear option to at least start some of this engagement, because yes, a lot of community pharmacies and a lot of retail pharmacies of the pharmacists are so overworked and don't have the opportunity to really speak with the patients themselves. However, there are a lot of smaller pharmacies and a lot of less busy pharmacies where we can start rolling out some of these ideas. And I think that the patients have really been the catalyst at this point to get this discussion of personalized medicine and integrative health into the entire schema of what medicine is right now. And I find that exciting. And I can see that as a change, at least for now, because, I used to work in a pharmacy in a clinic setting. And it would be the patients that would come in asking, oh, I saw, my friend or my friend's dad uses this supplement. Can we talk about it? And to have these open discussions that are, of course, all based in, the evidence and based in science. But the patients are the one coming and asking these questions. And actually, that's why I kind of pivoted into the cannabis side of medicine, because so many questions were coming from patients and they were asking about cannabis medicine, about CBD. What's the science? Is it worth it? Should I incorporate it? What is it good for? And because they started asking questions, I already knew a little bit about it, but I wanted to learn more so I could be a better healthcare professional. And then I feel like once I started learning more, whether the universe, someone found out, and healthcare professionals found out that I knew about it and started calling me, asking me to answer questions because they're realizing they don't know the answers. And so I feel like because patients are asking about anything natural medicines related, anything integrative health related, now the doctors, the physicians, the providers are realizing, oh, we need to know about this because we need to be, at the top of our license and be doing this the best that we can. So that's really the shift that I'm seeing, but it's really going to take more of a collective thought and change rather than, me trying to go out and just educate on my own, which I of course still do, but it's really me plus other people who are interested in creating this change through the lens of the patient.
Mm-hmm. And that makes total sense because the Western pharmaceutical solution comes with side effects. And if the cure is going to kill the patient, then what's the point of the cure, right? And I see the healthcare, I know we use the term healthcare, but to me, it's holistic wellness coming from the Eastern, South Asian Ayurvedic tradition. How do you give a healthy, holistic life for a person that integrates the whole person, right? The yoga, the meditation, the singing, the dancing, all the joyous things along with food. And then whenever there needs to be intervention, layer those in.
Yes.
So talk to us very briefly on how do you see doctors, surgeons, the medical practitioners, pharmaceutical folks in that entire spectrum, and physical therapy folks. Mm-hmm. How do all of them come together? Because I don't see anybody prescribing dance therapy for post-surgery recovery. That's what I did with my husband. Because if he had cancer and he had to go for physical therapy, he's going to start thinking about what's wrong with me. I'm going to die. All of this negative stuff because you are in this isolating, debilitating, sad environment of a routine. Mm-hmm. But dancing is music and joyful, and we're going to do it together, and it's fun. And now my husband's doctor prescribes everybody to go dancing on top of physical therapy, right? Because he saw such a huge improvement so quickly. Mm-hmm. How do we get people to move towards, if you embrace the person, the body will go along for the journey? And how can medical professionals in the West start thinking that way? Because there's no incentive there.
Exactly. I think that one of the main ways that makes the most sense to me, and honestly, one of the ways that I'm trying to penetrate into the system too, is through education while they're still in school. I really think that healthcare professionals on the whole, they base so much of what they do from what they learned in school and what they learned in their postdoctoral training, whether it's residency or fellowship. And so I think instead of trying to, educate them after that, which I still do that as well. And I still lecture and I do all of those great things. I think targeting it from the beginning and from a curriculum standpoint is really where we're going to see the change, because that's going to influence all the next generation of healthcare professionals. And the thing that I think that's really incredible and very interesting as well is a lot of the healthcare professional curriculums are the same across the board, and they just mimic one another. So I think that if we start at, let's say, 5 to 10 top universities, then other universities will take note and see like, oh, they're doing that. We need to do that. We need to follow suit. And then it will be a trickle down effect of all these other schools also taking it into account. And then I do think that, if it is incorporated into the curriculum, I think a great place to start is an elective. However, we need to make it a core part of the curriculum where everyone is learning about that. And in oncology coursework, they're talking about what can we do to help patients with symptomatic relief after surgery, after they're taking these certain medications, because I don't think it needs to be a full turning the system on its head and, saying that we need to throw out the medications. I do think medications have their place for certain disease states, for certain patients in certain scenarios. And so I think it's just, we need to augment and amplify what's already there with the inclusion of this extra information. And I don't want it to be viewed as extra or an elective. I want it to be viewed as something that's just a part of the curriculum. And depending on the patient, maybe one patient doesn't like to dance, but maybe they love to sing, and that's what's going to spark joy for them, and that's going to help them on their journey. So I think that healthcare professionals just need more tools in their toolbox, and I think that they're very limited with the certain tools that they currently have.
Brilliantly said. Thank you so much, Swati. I would love to open this up for any questions from our live audience. So let's open up and see. Robin, do you have any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, this has been really a fabulous interview, and I really like what you shared, that it's adding on to the Western, merging Eastern and Western, the best of both worlds. And my question is, how do you? I actually have two very short questions, maybe not wholly short questions. Is when you chose this pathway of going into pharmaceuticals, a pharmacy school, as opposed to maybe a traditional going to be an MD. How did your family react to that? Were they supportive? And then how do you find it? How are you able to overcome some of the negative bias toward, this new medicine, and we're people who are very steeped in the Western tradition, or barely taking vitamins, how can we get them to see, yes, these other things are legitimate. You're still using Western medicine as it is appropriate, but you're adding this other layer onto it.
Yes, definitely.
Double-dip question.
Yeah, no, both great questions. So the first one, I think that, when I brought it to my family that, I don't want to be a physician, but I'm more interested in pharmacy, and especially from the people I grew up around, the roles that pharmacists had just seemed more exciting to me than the ones that the physicians had. And also it was a multi-pronged, because it was also that I had these shadowing experiences, and I think my parents understood, and my parents have always been great with trusting my decisions and understanding that I've done the research and the background, and I've figured out that this is the right path, but they knew that it wasn't a decision that I made just willy-nilly and then decided to shift. And then once I decided to do that and focused, my entire CV on building out different experiences that would be and make me a great candidate for pharmacy school, I knew that they knew I was taking it seriously, and this is something that I was passionate about. So it was met with a lot less resistance than I had expected. But I think that's been a common theme, that I think that people are going to react in a certain way, and then it's actually not as bad as I thought. So, but I think it was because I come from that thought process of, I need to make sure that I've tried every single thing And I got to the point where I was like, I really don't think pursuing an MD is the right choice, but I still love healthcare. And so I want to find a way that fits with the way that I think about healthcare. And pharmacy at the time really seemed like the best next choice. So that's answering your first question. The second question is about, the stigma of integrative health. And I feel like every time I say I'm an integrative health pharmacist, I have to almost put it in a context of, integrative health has a lot of different definitions. And the way that I define it is this personalized, individualized approach with the utilization of all these different modalities rather than only focusing on one side of the spectrum or the other. And so I think that has helped. However, I mean, a lot of my colleagues, especially colleagues that I went to school with and colleagues that I had initially before I created this pivot and decision for myself to really be true to who I am and what I'm passionate about, I think they just don't really understand. And I think that it's not something that bothers me. I think initially it did a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think we have to do what is going to spark joy for us and what is going to feel in alignment with us. And I also came to the conclusion too, that I'm sure you agree with, is everyone is always going to have an opinion, whether their opinion is positive or negative or, something in between, and whether it's, something they agree with or not. And I think that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but we as people just need to decide whether or not we're going to internalize the opinion. And so to me, I feel like I'm on the right path for me. And I feel so confident with mentoring others to also be on this path, because we need more integrative health practitioners from all different paths of life. So whether they are physicians, pharmacists, nutritionists, everyone in between. So I think it's having this inner confidence and self-assurance that you feel like you're making the right decision and you're helping others along that path. That's been very helpful for me. But pairing that with, we're always going to hear opinions, and we're always going to a certain extent, we always hear what people are saying about us. But we need to be okay with what we're doing and not internalize those outside opinions, because that's where it gets dangerous and where people start, making certain decisions that might not be in alignment with who they are, but they're making those based off someone else's perception of what they're doing.
Beautiful answer. Thank you.
Thanks.
What a fantastic question, Robin. I love how you integrated your entire thinking and psychology behind this in the way you answered, Swati. And this is actually a perfect forum to have this conversation, because the Goldilocks community is about striking that balance. It is about getting things just right. And science shows that when we're at the extreme end of any one thing, we can't influence as much.
Yes.
Only when we take perspective and we move towards the center, we have a greater degree of influence. So I applaud you for what you're doing. The Goldilocks community is appreciative of you coming and sharing your wisdom and your experiences with us. So as we bring this to a close, if you were to have a one-sentence word of wisdom for people to take away with them for the week, along for the rest of their life journey, what would that message be?
I would say look within and figure out what is in alignment with you with every decision you make, whether it's, figuring out, is this friendship right? Is this career path right? For everything in life, think about, is this in alignment with me? And is this going to move me in the direction that is going to make me happy and help me contribute to society?
Thank you. Such a powerful message for everybody across all ages at all times in life. As we bring this to a close, thank you so much, Swati. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And to our community that joins us and watches us and engages with us, make sure you embrace your inner Goldilocks and stay in alignment so that you get your life just right. Because your life is unique. Your life has its own unique purpose. And don't hand that over to somebody else because they have an opinion. You got to do you because you were made just to be you.